Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you can learn how to make more money in less time and have more fun, specializing on the have more fun part. So I'm excited today. I have Lynne Jacob with us. She's from MJ International. She's been doing this a long time, looks like. She's got a book. She's got all the good stuff. And as I said, we interview the top coaches in the country, and I think she certainly qualifies as that. So Lynne, tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And yes, it's all about the fun. So I am a business performance coach. And just shortly after I hung out my shingle, my business, I started building a house. And I became the general contractor, not through having any knowledge about how to do it by any means, but what I learned through that process, where I will never build a house again, but what I learned through that process is that it's not, a walk in the park. It's not a piece of cake for all of the contractors, whether they were my trades at that point. And then I started working with the construction industry. I just started attracting them to me. And I was working with design build general contractors and, general contractors in the ICI, institutional, commercial and industrial. And whether they're general or they're trades, what I found is what happened to a lot of them is that a business happened upon them. So could I share a little story here about a home builder?
Go for it.
Okay, so this one fellow, this home builder, when he first came to one of my introductory events, so it was just a one-day thing to introduce the people in the room to me. Right. And of course, they'd seen me in my marketing material because I was sending stuff to people I was connecting with because I was speaking in associations, etc. So one of the things that really got him is it was strategy. So I train on these 7 simplified strategies. And it was about the marketing and the customers. And so he was complaining about how the customers just rake him over the coals and all this stuff. And I said, well, what does your contract say? And he said, I really don't know. So the very next
contract's better than some.
Well, yeah, and that is true. That is true. So at any rate, we started working together. But what happened is the next day, somebody else was trying to rake him over the coals, as he would say. And he opened the contract and he said to his wife, I don't understand a bleeping word in this thing, because his lawyer had created it for him, but he didn't know. Right. So at any rate, he, we started working together, and his story is that he was a truck driver and built his own home. And so then a family member said, oh, could you build a home for us? Sure. And so then he, put up his name and said, I'm a custom home. No, not custom. I'm a home builder. So he started building track homes. And when we met, he was doing 42 homes that year.
A lot of houses.
And no profit. He said he was so, he just had to keep them moving to keep money flowing. That's cash flow. Right. Cash flow is not profit. They're 2 different words, but whatever. So they had to keep the cash flowing. So they kept building more and more and more. It took him a while. It took him a few years to get out of that. But he found his sweet spot was building 5 custom built homes in 1 year.
Wow. It's a lot less than
what
40.
A difference, eh?
Really good. So I sure became profitable, which is a good thing. Now, you've written a book. I'm just curious. Interesting title. Can you share with the audience the title of the book and what it's about?
Okay. So I was traveling around Australia, and I was going to write this book that was going to be the only business thing I did while I was on this vacation around Australia. And this book stopped me in my tracks. I got very ill, and it wrote itself, basically. And it wasn't the book I thought I was going to be writing. But what this is a summary of my 7 key business strategies, which I've dramatically simplified. So now
tell them the title, because the title doesn't sound like that. What's the title?
Yeah. So then I had to find a title for it. So I was working with a client, and at the end of this was an intense coaching session where we spent a half day together. And at the end of the coaching session, then the client said something, whatever it was. And I said, I know, but you don't understand. And the client said, and I said, wow, that'd be a title for the book. And the client said, write it down. Good point.
So
and there it is.
I know you know. So now the obvious thing is I want the condensed version of the 7 steps.
Okay, first one is to design your vision. Design a 3-year vision. 5 years is too far out. 10 years, it's not even, it's just a joke. But 3 years is actually doable where you're going to look at it all the time. 3 years is manageable. You can see 3 years out. Look at your children, you know. So then strategy number 2 is to map out the route. So that goes from your 3-year vision and strategy number 1 down to your 1-year non-traditional business plan, 90-day goals every 90 days, your monthly management meetings, your weekly, most important activities to do in that week, right down to your daily HHWs. And that's a phrase coined by one of my clients, but hell or high waters, come hell or high water before my head.
The stuff you'll get done no matter what. Okay.
So that's strategy number 2. Strategy number 3 is to understand what truly stops you. So I've had, lots of guys, break into tears because something came up after our
Well, it could be your wife, your kids, your soccer game, or just plain fear, right? It isn't the same for everybody, I'm sure.
It's not the same for everybody, but it all pretty much comes from something between the ages of 5 and 7. 5 and 7.
Now you sound like a therapist, Lynn.
And it's not therapy, let me tell you, because once we know what it is, then we can see how it's affecting what's going on.
So how do you get a contractor? I know I've been a contractor for 40 years, sort of this non-emotional, not touchy-feely kind of just show me the way kind of guy, and get him to talk about his childhood.
It doesn't really happen that way. So we're looking at all these 7 strategies, and we're just having a conversation, and we're improving. We're identifying what can easily be improved or profoundly, whatever, in each of these 7 strategies, so that we're coming up with the 90-day goals after this intensive coaching session. So this is where we're together for a half day. And there will be something that this one guy, I remember, no, it's just strictly business. Yeah, okay, that's fine. And he said, I don't know what this has to do with anything, but forget it. I said, no, grab it. Let's hear it. And he said something. And I said, so now do you want to look at that a little bit more? And he just started to cry. And he said,
so share a couple of those, just a couple of those things. If people that stop contractors, you said just, stop them in their tracks and prevent them from succeeding. Just some examples.
Okay. So this one guy down in their rec room in the basement, that's a common thing from back in the day, right? You have a rec room in the basement, and they had a dart board, and he threw a dart, and it didn't hit the board, but it hit the wall instead, and his father smacked him up the side of the head. And the guy he got up from his chair in my condo and on the other side of the table, and he just almost ran to the washroom, and his wife was there with him. And he came back, and I said, so did you have to pee that badly?
Right.
And he said, whoa. And then he just got into it. So that was the sort of thing, and he turned his business around on a dime.
Give me another one. Give me another one. And these are good.
Another guy, he came home from being beaten up at school. So his father beat him up to say, you will never be beaten up again.
Whoa. Craziness.
And
so I can see how that would be a little trauma there. Okay. What's the third one?
So another one, oh my gosh. Yeah. Another one was how the mother and father went out dancing every week, I think it was. I don't know. Anyway, one night, the father didn't come home. The father died on the dance floor at the ripe old age of 42.
Wow.
Yeah. And this 7-year-old then had the programming that death happens at 42, and it happens when you're having fun.
Wow.
So don't have fun.
And don't get to 42, which is pretty hard to avoid.
I'll tell you, that person at 42 years old had a $20 bill left, and that was it. And nothing in the fridge, I remember.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's go to, I guess, number 4, right?
Okay, number 4 is all about the money. Know your numbers.
Okay.
And it's all about the money. So it goes right down to, what you need to bring in sales every month in order
I
to
have
get
one
to where
that
you want to
is,
be.
I use this example that you need to know how much you're making or losing every week and why. Because, Taco Bell can tell you that every hour. Costco can tell you that every 4 hours to change labor. And a lot of businesses don't know it. Maybe they never know it, or they know it at the end of the year when they get their taxes and they can't fix it.
That's 6 months later, isn't it?
Right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So it's not even the end of the
So
year.
the thing is, it's like you're flying an airplane, the instrument panel doesn't work for you, and you end up in a mountain and don't know why. Cool.
Exactly.
Okay, that's 4. What's 5?
Perfect. 5 is all about the team. All about the team. And so, yeah, I have simple, steps and all that stuff. But the first one is hire for attitude, and take a look around your company at the attitude. And it comes down to becoming a championship leader. Because when the leader has a sucky attitude, everybody's going to.
So this has always been a hard part for me. Maybe you can help me out here. How do you transform a craftsman into a leader? Because it's an entirely different set of skills, I think. So you've got some guy who's a good carpenter, he's or she's good at whatever she's doing, and then she decides, or he decides to own a company, and now the skill set is leadership, not craftsman. How do you help people make that transition?
First off, they have to have the desire. We can do anything if we have enough desire to do it.
Okay.
So then it's about communication. Communication, respect, and support are the top 3 problems in the workplace. So they've studied and told us.
Right.
And I contend that communication is the number 1 problem in every relationship. So if you're communicating well with
that
your
includes
team,
your kids, your wife,
everybody.
your friends, your employees, your brother-in-law, right? Everybody.
Everybody. So if you're communicating clearly and understanding more, first seek to understand, then to be understood.
Right. So how do you teach a contractor? I'm going to be very stereotypical here. So a contractor, he's a guy, he's got 5 employees. He says, worker be fired. I mean, it's like, and so he goes, this communication shit crap, just get the job done, dude. I pay you good money. I want you to be there. I don't want any touchy-feely crap. I just want you to do the job, show up, and it's all I'm asking. And then he comes to people like me. He never shows up on time. They start complaining to you or me about that. So how do you get them to shift that communication skills?
I love it. First off, look at your money. How's it working for you? Or do you have the profits you need? So then it's about becoming clear with the communication. Here are the rules of the game. Now, I recognize that I wasn't clear on any rules. I don't even know if I had any. I, was not a pleasant person to be around. So you brought to mind one fellow who's, really tough, road rage, the whole bit we worked on. And so this person who wouldn't show up, okay, this is the way it is from now on. And if you don't show up by 10 to 7, then you're out of here. And they knew he would never fire anybody because he never did.
Right.
And he fired the guy. The next time he showed up at 10 after 7, he said, no, everybody's gone. We had our morning meeting. Everybody's gone. I don't need you anymore. We'll send your separation papers to you.
Wow.
Yeah. And it hurt. It hurt him really badly, emotionally, to do that, to fire somebody, because unfortunately they become a little friendly, but who wants to be friends with an ogre?
Right.
So that's the start of it. Now that guy did come back a couple of months later, but he came back, not with his tail between his legs, really. Maybe he did, but he came back saying, I get it. I totally get it. And I'm going to do better. And last I heard, he was.
So that's really communication skills. Okay, let's go to the next one. What's the next one?
Okay, the next one is strategy number 6, and that's all about the customer. Dare to fire your customers. A, B, and C, your customers. A are, big money, and they're great to work with. They pay properly. They're great to work with. B, not such big money. and they're great to work with, and they pay well, and they communicate well, and they're great to work with. C stands for change. You, the owner of the company, set the tone for how your customers can treat you and communicate with you. And, you know, like these people who told me so many times, you know, on Friday afternoon, they'd get a call from the owner or whatever. This has to be done. And on Monday, I need somebody here on Monday. Geez, if you'd told me on Wednesday, I could have easily had someone there for you on Monday.
Right.
So
okay.
It's communication. So, and it's all about marketing your business as well.
Okay. So let's stop here. Marketing.
Okay.
How you're located where in Canada, right? I can tell by your accent, you got to be Canadian. Right?
Canadian. Yeah.
Okay. So, but it's true. We work in, you know, all the US markets, Canadian markets, and the problems are the same. So how do you find those A clients? Just give me some examples. Small contractor, remodeling guy, does a couple million a year, has 5 employees. How does he get those A clients?
Birds of a feather flock together. So you ask your past A clients for referrals.
Okay. How do you give me the specifics on how you ask referrals? Because some guys aren't really good at that.
Yeah, sure. So you have a system when they're signing the contract, says right in the contract, we will be asking you for a testimonial and referrals. You will not in any way be obliged to provide either, but if you don't, that's an indication to us that something's not quite the way you want it to be. And that we want to hear about, because we want to be given the opportunity to fix that, to change that.
So you're successful at getting referrals from your clients' clients?
From my clients.
Yeah, from your
So
clients. Well, yeah, I mean,
I get referrals from my clients.
Right. But as a contractor, same thing. He or she gets
Absolutely.
referrals from their clients.
Absolutely, they do. And they all do. And because I've seen advertising, you know, people have said, I'm thinking about doing an ad on the radio. Well, you're not in the driver's seat. You don't know who's listening to it, who's hearing it, to whom it's speaking. You can't do anything. You just put your whatever. Back in the day, it was 35,000. It's probably 65,000 now, out there, and hope and pray. So instead,
how on the average, how many referrals do your clients get from any client they're working with? 1, 2, 3. Got any idea about that?
For the contractors,
the contractors working with building a house.
Yeah,
he's done with a house or whatever. How many and how does he get clients from that person to actually get them for people?
You're asking your happy, delighted clients who know, love, and trust you. Who do you know who might be interested in learning about the way I do things or about the services I provide?
What if
and
they
those
say,
people,
well, I'm not comfortable. I mean, you know, what if they say I'm not comfortable or I'm not sure? How do you answer those kinds of objections?
Well, if you're in a conversation with them, then you say, I would just like to talk to them. I'm not going to like bombard them with emails, like, you know, 6 emails a day or whatever. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Like, I would just like to be able to speak with them in case one day they were to want some renovations in their home. And if they don't like my style, that's okay.
Okay.
But people have told me that they always get at least one. They say they'd like 3 or 4 names. And so the people aren't complying with giving them 3 or 4. Not always. Sometimes they do. But they're getting at least one name.
Okay. And what do you use for marketing other than referrals?
Also attending gatherings, you know, like golf tournaments is one way, but I prefer more the dinner meetings so that you're sitting at a table, you know, a round table with people. Now, these people aren't necessarily your prospective customers, but everybody knows and has they say they have the influence over the decision-making of up to 100 people.
That's true.
So just getting out there and marketing yourself will help market.
I have a saying to my clients, if you want to marry a rich woman, you have to date rich women, or right? Marketing 1A, and I say you got to find them at the country club, not the laundromat. So
I love it. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
So you know, join the country club, don't hang at the laundromat. I get that. So, what specifics are there, like clubs, like country clubs or golf
Sure.
clubs or architectural
Okay.
meetings, that kind of stuff?
One of my clients just recently, this is slightly to the side of that,
Okay.
but he doesn't like crowds. He's a dry alcoholic, let's say, so
Okay.
he's overcome that. So he doesn't like to put himself into situations that are tempting. And I get that. That's cool.
Right.
So he doesn't like to go out into these groups, like for example, for him, it would be the Home Builders Association. For somebody
Right.
else, it'd be the Construction Association.
Right.
And so he and his wife did something they've never done before, because this is what I'm always challenging people to do, is to grow themselves. And they took sailing lessons one day.
Okay.
And now he's an electrical contractor, but on that boat in those sailing lessons was a big general. And now he immediately got a $20,000 job just to test
I'm
it
sure
out.
it paid for the sailing lessons, right?
Yeah, sure did. He said, I can't wait for the season to turn around so we can go out and get some more clients.
Right. That's
And
true.
that's that level of client. They didn't go out on a sea-doo.
Right.
They
They
went
went,
out on a sailboat.
right. So that's again the country club, not the laundromat, obviously. Right.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly.
So
yeah. So it's get out there, because none of your next customers or clients are in here. They're all out there. So
there.
get out there.
Okay. So Lynn, if you're gonna, like, say you met a guy at an airport and he's a contractor and you're never gonna see him again, right? And you're talking this conversation, really nice guy, and he's having problem. I'm saying, I'm not making enough money. I'm working my butt off. Been doing this for 10 years and I can't seem to be profitable. Can't seem to find the right clients. Can't seem to find employees. This is a very difficult thing. You're an expert, Lynn. We got a couple minutes here. Give me some words of wisdom to leave with, because I may never see you again.
Oh, give me your contact information and I'm going to call
No,
you
you can't.
next
That's
week.
not fair, Lynn. You're cheating. No, you're never going to see this. I just want these words of wisdom.
Never.
Never,
Oh, okay.
whatever.
So never
Never
going to
see
him
this
again.
guy again. He's done. You didn't get the phone number. So what words of wisdom would you give him? Like, 2 or 3 things, a paragraph. You're saying, well, if you want to succeed as a contractor, I've been doing this for many years. I've helped a lot of people. I would like you to do these things. What are those things?
You have to increase your fun factor. So what is that going to take to increase your fun factor? Look at that. Because the more depressed, like at 10 years, never been profitable. I've all my clients have been there, and
Right.
they're going down and down and down and down. So increase your fun factor.
Yeah, I know. I've heard some statistic, maybe urban legend, that the number one people quit businesses, including construction, is the emotional and financial reward are not worth the effort they're putting in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And one fellow was throwing in the towel when we met in December 06. And 2 weeks later, he called me and said, I have reflected more on my business in the past 2 weeks. No, in the past 14 days than in the previous 14 years. He'd been in business for 14 years. Wow. And he didn't throw in that towel. By the grace of God, he didn't know how to make decisions. So he didn't throw in the towel like he had decided he would 2 months earlier, come the end of the year. And today we're still coaching. And today he's gone up. And now he not only owns these 2 businesses that he is seldom at, but he and his wife are flying around in his custom built 5-seater airplane.
Cool. That's awesome.
That he also managed. I said to him when the plane was, okay, it's arrived. He didn't have it yet, but it's coming. And I said, now let's look at how you can use this in your business so that we can get it written off as a business expense. And he already had one. He bought a used one to start, right. And now this one. And it's like, yeah, well, whatever. I don't know. And I said, let's just keep the mind open. Let's just keep the mind open and let something come in. And cool. Within about 3 or 4 months of him owning it, the dealership contacted him and asked if they could use it as a test plane for people looking to buy that model.
Well, if somebody's buying that kind of plane, it's probably a good prospect, right?
Yeah.
It's a qualifier right there, right?
There you go. There you go.
So,
and he could not hit the $1 million mark in 06, and before that he could not.
Wow, that's not much.
And and in the first year of our working together in this trade contractors business training program that I have, he grew his business by he went to 1.7. That's what one job, sorry, just one job was 1.7.
Wow.
And he couldn't get to one. So one of the things he had to do was hire a really experienced, serious estimator and project manager. And that guy is still with him now. He's about to retire, but they just signed on, again, the biggest job they've ever had in the company. So this guy who's about to retire promised he'd stay on for the 3 years it'll take to finish it. So,
that's amazing. So Lynn, you know, you've been doing this a long time, really seems like you're really good at it. But what makes you special? I mean, everybody has their like unique talents and that kind of thing. What do you think makes you special and really good at what you do here when you're coaching contractors? What's your like secret skill or, you know, wheelhouse, you want to call that?
Well, I guess it's, without being woo-woo or anything, I guess it's the fact that I'm an expert on the subconscious mind. And that's what I talked about in strategy number 3, understanding what truly stops you from following through. That's what strategy number 3 is all about. So it's that secret little bit. One fellow, he's a general, and he grew his business by starting an electrical division as well. But he's a general. And so we sat down, he recuperated, oh my God, he recuperated his entire investment in the program within 8 days. Just by taking 8 days, by taking awesome. One step that we talked about in a 1.5 hour, you know, startup conversation.
Like, well, that's a pretty darn good ROI as far as I know. 8 days isn't bad, right?
And it happens almost all the time. People triple their profits within months.
Wow, that's amazing. Well,
yeah.
How do people get in touch with you if they're interested? What's your process? How do they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. So it's Lynne Jacob, LYNNE JACOB, and send me a message, and I'll get back to you. So the system is that we have a get acquainted conversation, no charge, just to acquaint ourselves with each other and each other's businesses. Now, if it makes sense to me and to the person, I'm going to suggest that they bring their business into the mechanics, so to speak, so that I can, you know, lift up the hood and put it up on the hoist, and I'll make recommendations. And that does come with an investment. And I guarantee at least a 300% ROI on that one time business diagnostic assessment. So it's an $800 Canadian, even $800 investment, and how simple it will be to get a $2,400 return. And it can happen immediately. But also, if it makes sense to the person and to me to work ongoingly in a long-term coaching partnership, then I'll ask the person if I'd like to do that. Okay, well then I'm going to know from that diagnostic assessment which of my various programs will serve this person best. Not one that's too small.
And my guess is you eat your own dog food and you choose A clients, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if not, I will choose a B. Well, I've got programs for B clients, you know, not so much money, but they're going to do it. They're going to follow through. And I have said to some people from the diagnostic, now it hasn't happened frequently, but I've said to at least 3 I can think of, you know, and I don't believe that your best next step is to work with me. I don't think you're going to do it. You're not going to follow through. You probably won't follow through on what you've just gotten out of this today. Okay.
So one last question. The biggest problem I've had in my 40 years of coaching is not telling people what to do, but it's getting them to do it. I mean, you know, how do you get in shape? You eat right, you exercise, and yet America's fat. I mean, so you and I, I'm sure, can sit down. You can say, okay, here's what you need to do. You've done 100 times. You know where I'm at 1 million, I get to 5 million, do this, and this, you'll get there. And I'm sure it's absolutely accurate. How do you actually get them to do it?
By asking questions and helping them identify what their challenge really is. So people come to me each coaching session with challenges. This is what we want to work on. Well, all they see is the challenge, but working together, I'm asking them questions and they get to see it very differently than what they did in the beginning and where
Okay.
it's coming from. And they know what they need to do. I don't tell people what to do.
Okay.
And now there are some people who want me to tell them what to, just tell me what to do. I said, why? You wouldn't do it anyway.
Right. So you're saying once they understand it's their idea or what they need to do, then that helps
Exactly.
motivate them to get it done.
Exactly. Exactly. In my training, I share the challenge and what other people have done to overcome the challenge. So that's giving them
Okay.
ideas. That's not a one-on-one coaching session, but that's training. So now they've got all these ideas. Now, what are you going to do to move forward this week or,
Great.
in the next
In a
2
week at a
weeks
time.
until,
Great.
yeah.
That sounds awesome. Well,
Yeah.
if people don't call you, I just think it's not smart. I mean, especially for the hour consultation, because you've been doing this a long time, you're very successful. I think you've got a great sense of, I'm going to call it intuition, or way more than a lot of coaches have, because you're not just dealing with specific, step one, step two, you're actually dealing with a human being, and you're helping the human being change your behavior, which to me is the most critical thing in doing any kind of coaching. So that's awesome. So one more time, Lynn, how do they get in touch with you?
Okay. MLJinternational.com is my website, and LinkedIn. So it's Lynne, Lynnne, Jacob, Lynne Jacob on LinkedIn. And what else? I can give you a number. So you can WhatsApp me from anywhere in the world. So it's +1 Canada, 613-484-3861.
Great. Thanks, Lynn. I really appreciate being here. Some amazing insights, and thanks for being our guest.
Thank you, Paul. It's been a pleasure. Love talking about this stuff.